So we are going to be painting this ornament, and I'm going to be walking you through it step by step. And if you love it and you already want it to be drawn for you, you can order it as an art kit. If you've already ordered it as an art kit and you're painting it along with me, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you. So I do have all of my paint colors, and I've got my paint brushes, and my water cup and my napkin, so I am ready. Hopefully I've got like a pretty good angle for you guys. All right, there we go. That should work. Okay, and that's pretty close up. So I'm going to start with my biggest brush that I have, and we want to create a background. Now, let's say I want to use this red. It's not quite Christmas tree like green though, right? So we might want to go, or Christmassy red. So we might want to go and add a little bit of green. And if you don't have green, you can make that by starting with yellow, mixing in a little bit of blue. That'll make green. And then we'll add the green to our red, and we want to keep our mixing piles kind of small, because if you spread it out all over your plate, you are going to just waste it, right? It's going to dry to the plate before you have a chance to use it, okay? So once we get a good Christmas red, we are going to then start working on getting our border painted, and we're going to paint this with the biggest brush that we have. Now, the cool thing about these canvases is they're like pretty durable, right? But they've got this texture on them that sometimes is hard to get the paint down in the grooves. Okay, so we want to make sure that we get our paint all down in those grooves. So we can, if anything, you can just kind of get it on there sloppy first, and then sort of work your paint in, and make it maybe look a little bit smoother. So like I could go back over it and just gently use the side of the paintbrush, not the tip of the paintbrush necessarily, and kind of smooth all that out. I could, if I wanted to, even paint my edges, give these edges a nice finish. Then of course we've got to come up this side. I'm going to paint over those branches to start instead of trying to paint around them. And then whenever I paint my brown, I'll just cover them right up. Now, obviously, don't do the same colors as me. Do what makes you happy, okay? So you guys do you. Don't feel like you got to match me. You think about where you might hang this and where that would look good, like what colors that would look good to hang this up next to. So kind of think about that, what color scheme's going on, where this is going to go. Maybe it's going to go in the bathroom. Maybe it's going to go on a shelf in the living room. So you got to think about these things. Now I've got to paint, if I'm painting my edges, I have to paint like the tippy top, right? There we go. Now, if you want your finish, if you want your colors to be a little bit more solid and not like so see-through, right? The trick is let this dry a little and then add a quick second coat. Okay, so that's kind of the trick if we're trying to not see our brush strokes. So we pop a coat on and we let it dry a little, and then we pop another one on. Okay, that's my trick anyway. All right. There we go. And again, you can do whatever colors make you happy. Do whatever makes you happy. All right, now that I have my border done, okay, once we get our border done, then we can think about this background, okay? So to clean this brush, first I'm going to get the extra off. So I'm going to kind of scrape this red off because I am almost out of red. I did not give myself very much paint. There we go. So to clean our brushes, you're going to want to use an old water cup. Do not use something that you love, okay? But I'm just going to smush this thing around in here in the bottom, wipe, smush, 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 wipe. And then we're going to dry on our napkin. And that's going to get the extra paint out of your brush. You might even have to wash like a second time, and that's okay if that's the case. No worries. All right. So I'm going to move on to a smaller, pointier brush, and that's what I'm going to use for my branch. So I'm going to start with a base brown, and I'm just going to do little brush strokes, just like so. There we go. And actually, you know what, friends? What was I thinking? I already said we have to do our background. I'm just getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Totally ahead of myself. Okay. That's okay. There we go. All right, so instead, what I'm gonna do, the whole reason I clean this big brush is I'm gonna choose a color for my background. So I may do turquoise and white in my brush. Sometimes it's fun to do both in your brush at the same time. I'm gonna outline my ornament carefully. And you know what? If we get a little bit on our ornament, we can kind of wipe that clean, or you can even get a damp paper towel and kind of clean your ornament that way. There we go. So I'm just grabbing a little turquoise, little white. Now I have to be very, very careful next to my border because it's still wet, right? So you kind of want to be thoughtful about that. Not going to try to paint around these branches because that will be too big of a challenge. So I'm just going to keep my paint real thin over the little sprigs, the little sprig branches coming off here. And the reason being is because it'll dry faster. So if I keep a thin, thin layer, it'll dry faster. Plus, it'll be see-through enough where I can see those branches underneath. So I'm going to get close to my background without touching. Don't touch. You could even leave a little teeny tiny gap in there if you needed to. Just glide right on that edge. There we go. There we go. All right. So as you're painting this, you might kind of think about like, what am I going to put in this ornament? Is it going to be an initial, or am I just going to decorate this ornament? Maybe you have a favorite ornament at home and you want to kind of make this resemble that. So really, the sky's the limit on what you choose to do on your on top of your ornament, right? Sky's the limit. No wrong answers when it comes to painting. I think that's why I love art so much, is everybody's answer can be different. Everybody's end result can be different, and that's okay. And it actually makes it even more special when everybody's looks different. There we go. Sweep in a little white over there. Let's come down here. Work on this edge. Now, if a little bit of my turquoise and red mix, I'm not even going to stress about it. It'll just make a slight purpley color, and that's okay. Not even going to stress about it. This is supposed to be relaxing and fun, so we don't freak out if we make oopsies. All right. There we go. So I'm just kind of working my way over here. Oop, got into the red a little. You can always wipe that off on your napkin. Instead of having to wash your brush completely, you can just wipe it off on your napkin to get that extra out. And then, see, like I got in it again. I think my arm's tired today. It's funny, the kids today were telling me the same thing. It's Kimberly. I've got a crick in my neck. It's Kimberly. My shoulder's tired. Cracking me up. All right. Here we go. Gorgeous. Just kind of going around, having a little fun, trying to even it out a little. Oh, I see one sneaky spot right there under the hook. Okay, now we have our whole background painted. So now, there we go. All right, so now we can definitely clean that brush. Switch back to our blue pointy brush. There we go. And then we can start thinking about that branch again, right? Okay. Turn my phone on Do Not Disturb so we don't get interrupted. There we go. Okay, so just going to work on our branch. And you know what? I want you guys to purposefully get a little bit out of the lines. A, it teaches you things don't have to be perfect, but then B, it makes our branch look a little bit more realistic and not quite like so perfect, because these branches in real life would not be like totally smooth, right? All right. There we go. Okay, so we've got the big branch worked on. There we go. And then if I wanted to, I could grab just a little bit of white. So I left the brown. What am I doing? I left the brown in my brush, and then I added just a little bit of white on the tips. And then what I could do is kind of go in and hit like the tops like that. So when I go in and hit the tops of the branches, there we go, it softens them up and creates a little bit of value. So we have like a lighter value, and then we have a medium value kind of there in the middle. And then of course we could make a darker value. So I don't have black with me right at this moment. So I'm going to grab a little bit of purple and mix that in with my brown. We'll just play around a little, see what happens. Why not? And then take a little bit of this and just kind of hit the bottom of the branches. Sometimes when you have really wet paint, you have to use the side of the bristles. So the side, not the tip. Okay, and just barely touch your brush to your canvas. Just barely. Gracious. There we go. All right. Now we've got all these extra branches going on. Gracious, I am being sloppy today. Hopefully my head doesn't get in you guys' way. Now the cool thing is these little guys don't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, because we're going to be putting a whole bunch of greenery on these guys. So don't even worry about it. I'm going to guess there's another one somewhere over here. There. All right, so now we can let those dry a little, and then we'll go in and we'll work on adding our all of our pine needles. Maybe I'll go in and add just a sweep. And if you don't have a really, really soft touch, you might think about grabbing a smaller brush for this part. There we go. All right. So now we could start thinking about this big guy here. So I'm going to clean my big flat brush. And again, the sky's the limit. So I'm going to be doing green right up here. I might do either a gold hook or a gray hook, probably a gold hook. So we've got a red outline. Man, I just don't even know what color to do. Maybe we do a purple one. But I think I'm going to go like mix some of my purple with white, kind of go that way. And then I'm going to carefully outline my ornament. And if it helps you to like turn your canvas different directions, definitely do that. If that helps you to be able to like fill in a space easier, do whatever it takes to help yourself. Like, don't make it harder on yourself. If one brush is a little funky, don't use it. Use a different brush. Because sometimes it really is the brush or it's the size of the brush. Okay, now we're going to fill it in. There we go. Awesome. And so notice that I'm filling in the right side with kind of a backwards curve. And then as I get towards the center, we kind of straighten it up. And then we fill in the left side with like a C type curve. So we've got a backward C and a regular C. There we go. Amazing. So I can let this set up a little bit. And because I could try. Let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen if we add straight purple on here right now, but we can try. It kind of works. Sometimes when your paint's too wet, it doesn't exactly do what you want it to. There we go. So I'm just kind of playing around, adding a little extra value to my ornament, not like monetary value, but color value. So anytime you can have lights, mediums, darker values of one color, like light, medium, dark, it just really amps up the excitement of the ornament or whatever it is that you're looking at. Okay. Make sure my brush, every time you wash it, you got to make sure it's really dry. So we're going to cut into here. All right. There we go. I could even grab some straight white, kind of get like a shine going over here. All right, and maybe a teensy shine over here, since it is the top of the ornament. And of course, my hand's not stopping. Sometimes you can use your fingers to do a little blending. There we go. It is such a soft touch, just as soft as you can, okay? Anytime you're laying wet paint on top of wet paint, as soft as you can. So here's a fun trick. If you add a little bit of purple, ooh, that's a little bit of purple to your yellow, You can then have a like mustardy yellow. And I'm going to add a pop of white in there just to make it not quite so see-through. And then I'm going to clean the extra off that brush just like that. And we're going to work on painting this hook. If you don't trust yourself with your medium pointy brush, you could definitely switch to a smaller pointy brush. So this hook is going behind the branch and hooking around, okay? So we don't want to paint it over the branch. There we go. Get down in those little curves. Create a little curve, 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 straight. Woohoo! Look at us go. All right. I could even, there we go. So now I could take some straight white and kind of put a little pop. Ooh, kind of got out of the lines there. Little pop of straight white on the curve, down the front. And if you need to, let your paint dry before you do this and it'll show up way better. There we go. Okay, so that's creating like a little bit of texture into our hook. I feel like our hook's a little wonky. Something about it. There we go. Yes. All right. Now I could take that brown and just clean this up right here. Because remember, it's going behind the branch and wrapping around. All right. Okay. So now we need to work on our evergreen pine needles, right? So I'm going to take, this green is not the right kind of green. So we're going to take the little bit of red that I have left and mix that into our green. And that should give us more of a Christmas tree green. That's what we're going for. We're going for Christmas tree green. We want a nice deep green. We got to mix it up good. If your green actually turns brown, then just add more green to it. Okay. There we go. So now I'm going to take this, and this brush might actually be too big. Might need a smaller pointy brush. Here we go. And basically, I am just flick, 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 flicking. And I am adding in my pine needles to my branches. Now, if it's too hard to flick one way, definitely like don't be shy about flipping your canvas different directions, because some directions are hard for me to flick. I'm gonna grab a different brush. That one's kind of ruined, I think. Seen too many paint classes. There we go. And so again, they're just quick little sweeps. And this is what really like brings it all together. Now, obviously my yellow's a little too wet still, but that's okay. We can always come back to it. Now, because they're pine needles, don't think that they all have to go like this direction or that direction or be totally uniform or anything like that, because that's not the case at all. They're pine needles. They're organic. They're going to do what they do, right? Now, if you're just mixing a lot like mine is, you can always blow dry. That is literally the only reason I use a blow dryer, except to blow dry my dogs after they get a bath. The dogs and the paintings get the blow dryer. There we go. So again, they're just quick little sweep, sweep, sweeps. We're just like flicking the paint this direction and that direction. There we go. And this is why it wasn't important really what the middle looked like. I was trying to stress that with you guys, like don't stress about your baby branches. And this is totally why, because you can't even see them anymore, right? They're gone. We just know there's brown in there somewhere, and that's all we know. Go. There we go. So again, it's just lots of flicks. Flicky, flick, 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 flick. And some of them might be kind of hard to see, but I'm going to show y'all a trick here in just a minute. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so now that we've done that, what if we take some of this green and some of this yellow and kind of mix them together and add a chunk of white? So we really lighten it up. Now we have kind of like a sage green, right? What if we take that sage green and add a few little pops of that in here and there? Don't completely like cover them everywhere, but just here and there. And again, we want these little branches to kind of take on a life of their own. So let them have some personality. Let them be spunky. Don't stress about them being perfect. No such thing. They're pine branches. I mean, maybe somebody could make them perfect, but I don't know. What's the fun in that? So these little guys can be as bushy as you want, or you can keep them real like sparse. Like I've seen some pine trees that are very sparse, like they're not super full. I've actually seen some like fake Christmas trees sold that way. So I don't know, but I'm sure it's a thing. So you don't have to make them quite as thick and plump as I am. Here we go. We're almost there. We're almost there. So that's layer 2, right? We did our darkest green. Whoop. Now we're adding in pops of a lighter green. There we go. And then now you can take the bottom of a brush like this. Take the bottom of your brush, dip it in your red, and we could do some little berries. Although I think in the trees, are they white? I don't know, but I like the red. I like the little red because it brings the red from the border into somewhere else on the painting. So it kind of creates a little balance. Kind of fun. And then if I wanted to, I could do like a polka dot border. I could do stripe, like candy cane stripe border. Kind of whatever you're feeling, like no wrong answers. There we go. I could take my bigger pointy brush and kind of flock my tree a little. So dip in my white and then dabby, dabby, dabby on my plate because I don't want too much. And kind of flock the top of the tree a little. Although I think, oh, my paint's still too wet. I'm painting too fast. Remember, if you watch this back on a playback, like you guys can totally pause, rewind, catch up, hear something again, like whatever you need. That's the cool thing about watching this back. Okay, so we did that. We could even, I don't know if the white would show up right now, but we could even add little flicks. Probably should have done this before I did my red. Little flicks of white, like in the branches. All right. So quiet in the studio. I'm not used to this. Need some music jamming. Hopefully you've got some music going in the background. Have some festive music. There we go. So fun. All right. So now I'm going to add a big old pop of white over here for a shine. If you had gold glitter, I could have totally put gold glitter on that hook before I painted all over it. You could put glitter on your little berries. There we go. So we've got our little shine there. And then, like I said, you could go in and add polka dots if you wanted to. Although I think I'm gonna, remember I told y'all not to stress about this. There we go. There we go. Yes, yes, please. So fabulous. There we go. So fun. All right. So, my friends, from this point, you do whatever else. You could add an initial, you could totally decorate your ornament. You could use paint pens to then go in and decorate your ornament. Um, Add designs to the frame, like whatever you think you need. But I enjoyed getting to paint this with you. I'm trying to figure out where to put this to see me. But I enjoyed, there it is, getting to paint this with you. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and spending that time. And I would love to see your finished one at some point. So you have to drop a picture in the comments or send it in a message, whatever it may be. But you guys have an amazing rest of your week. It's Friday, Junior. So enjoy the rest of your week. And I will see you on here again very soon. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do about next week because we have camp here all week and it's Thanksgiving break. So what? I got to figure out when I'm going to go live, but I'll let you know. But thank you so much for watching me paint this ornament, and we'll see you guys again.